Hey folks, welcome back to my segment on my RC vehicles. I just want to make a new video on my Traxxas Fortec 2.0 right here. I've got it all set up pretty much how I want it with the new shocks. That was my last video. I purchased some GPM aluminum shocks for my Fortec 2.0, and I'm pretty happy with those. I just have to admit that, as I get older, over approaching 55 years old, it's just more difficult to make all these different videos. I have a lot of different interests. My reptiles, my e-bike, my Suron, my car, my motorcycle, knives, many different interests and segments of my channel. And so as I get older, between work and, living life, it's just difficult to always make new videos and be motivated. It just takes a lot of work. And as I get older, it just gets more difficult. So hopefully a lot of y'all can relate to that. If you're younger and you have all kinds of energy and enthusiasm, good for you. I appreciate y'all watching too, and I appreciate everyone that watches my content. So the video today is, and I haven't had a lot of time to run this between all the other things that I make videos on and my work and, time sleeping and trying just to, manage my health and my life. It's just, again, difficult to be able to, too many toys, I guess. Is that a bad thing? Heck no, it's great that I have a lot of things that I'm interested in. But I need to get back to making videos on my Fortec 2.0 right here. Fortec 2.0, awesome little Traxxas vehicle. Just needs a lot of little modifications and little individual touches that you can add to it to make it even better. But here's what the video is today. And sorry it took so long to get to this point. The GPM shocks and the factory shocks, the Traxxas little plastic shocks that come on here. So the problem that I'm seeing, when you soften up your suspension, because if you make your suspension too hard, it doesn't work. If you make it too soft, it blows through the suspension travel. And so there's not a suspension absorber little piece in there that bottoms out. It's in a bottom out little, some high-end shocks and forks have at the bottom of the travel, as the fork bottoms out, it'll have an absorber of some type to where it doesn't just metal on metal and really crash down and make a real harsh landing. So I was thinking, while I was resting and just thinking, what can I do? I'm always thinking, that's one thing, my brain never stops. My body slows down, but my brain is always fully going. So it's very difficult sometimes for me to sleep. So one thing I was thinking about to, soften up the shocks and allow the full travel of the suspension is that there is no little bottom out piece. I don't know what the correct term is right now. My brain sometimes doesn't function and come up with the right words, but a little absorber down at the bottom, a shock absorber. Let me just think what it's called. I have done this in the past. I've been doing this hobby for like 35 years or 40 years or maybe 45 years, since the late 70s. So I knew about this, but I just didn't think about it. You can get a little shock tubing, it's going to be a little for my shock tube shaft, but this is fuel tubing. If you have any RC nitro content, that you've had nitro cars, and you're going to have a lot of little fuel tubing around. You got to measure it so that and see how much your car will bottom out before the bottom of the car hits the ground, because you want to have all the full travel that you can use, but you don't want the suspension to bottom out and then the bottom of the car to hit the ground, because that's hard. That is hard. When it bottoms out and it hits the bottom of the chassis, then you're going to disrupt your vehicle. It's going to bounce. It's not going to act right. So a lot of people, when they run their Fortec 2.0, if you go look at, if they run it hard and run it often, this is going to be all scratched up, really scuffed up, and possibly even the back is scuffed up. So they are bottoming out over things. I always try to run this on really, really flat, level ground, not a lot of rocks, not a lot of garbage on the concrete. I look for really clean, smooth concrete. Even big cracks or joints in the concrete you're running on, or the asphalt, will cause the suspension to bottom out, and it really smacks and scuffs this up. Let me speak clearly. As you can see, mine is in really good shape as I try to adjust my suspension so that it's not bottoming out and really scuffing up the bottom of my vehicle. You want to kind of soften that hit up just a tad, and what it does is going to limit the travel just a little bit. You don't want to do too much and you don't want to do too little. So that's what this does. And you're going to insert this, you're going to cut this down. You got to do the measurements, you got to do the inspection and figure out how much little cut off little rubber tubing you need. And then you're going to take that little piece of that rubber tubing, you're going to take your shocks off, you're going to disassemble them, and you're going to put that little rubber tubing onto the shock shaft. Get the shock apart so that I could take the lower part off, and I'm probably going to end up damaging this little GPM shock, and I don't want to do that. I just bought them, and so I came up with a solution. The shock shaft was just spinning with the shock. I couldn't grab it hard enough, and I'm scared that I'm going to damage the shock shaft. And so what I did, I just said, I took the fuel tubing and I stretched it over. It was big enough to stretch over the eyelet and then rest on the shock shaft. So that's probably the better solution rather than damaging the shock. As you can see, as the shock travels down, there's a little bit of that squish as it hits that bottom out bumper, as you can see there. So that's going to limit the suspension, the full suspension travel, and not allow the front of the little 2.0 to smash into the ground. Compress the spring. All right, maybe I need to cut my little spacer down just a little bit more. Oh, let's just try this. Let's see. I'm going to put the spring preload that I had before on there. Put our preload adjuster back down to where the shock is not floating. Actually put some preload into it. Now we're going to put it back on to the vehicle. All right, so I recommend doing this on a hard surface. Move this out of the way, my little makeshift wood stand. And so we're going to put that on the flat surface, and we're going to push down. When I push down on it, the resistance starts about right there, right before the chassis is contacting the ground. I can push it all the way down, but for this scale and size of this vehicle hitting a bump, the suspension travel is limited to about right there. Again, I can push it all the way down if I want to. That's what that little piece that I added is doing, is keeping the chassis from slapping on the ground. So there's the full suspension travel of the shock, unimpeded, but just right there at the end, it doesn't want to slap the bottom. But it can. So I'm not limiting physically the suspension travel. I'm just giving it a soft stop. Hopefully that makes sense and you see the benefits. So thanks for tuning in. Have a great day. I appreciate you watching. Hopefully this was helpful. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.